Good morning and welcome to Mecca Live, making engaging community connections accessible here on Thursday, November 12th, 2020. Today's topic, time management, money management, and relationships, what all three have in common. Before we get right into our topic, I want to say a couple of things. We are nearing the end of another week. It seems that so many of us are lamenting and saying the same thing that 2020 felt like we felt so many of us have said that we feel like 2020 ended and it was 10 years later. Like we, it feels like it's such a long year, but I don't want to bemoan the things that we can all uh, suggest and agree upon that made this year difficult. What I would like to do is celebrate the things that we've done and encourage you to celebrate and take some time to look at the things that you have done and that you've experienced or witnessed that made 2020 a little bit easier considering all that we had to deal with. So the creativity of so many human beings to continue as much normalcy as we could, as they could, as we navigated birthday parties and graduations and spending time with loved ones. So many people had to reacclimate themselves to different types of technology, as it were, so that we weren't completely disconnected from the things and the people that give us life and that we love, and celebrating and keeping in mind that unfortunately, but sometimes the best parts of humanity, sometimes we are not aware completely of our ability to be resilient until we're challenged to do so or challenged to be so. And for so many, that was the case for 2020. For so many, again, I'm deliberately with intention taking this time to focus on the game changers, the people that decided to be a part of the positivity as we navigate and navigated the pandemic at its onset. Well, I should say the onset of our awareness, but I'm focusing on that. And so with that said, there were many people, many people that stepped outside of themselves and said, you know what, right now, we're all in this, right? What can I do to make it easier for somebody else? And that was it. That was the mission. That was the objective. That was the qualifier. It was just that what do I have that I'm willing to and I'm able to utilize to assist someone else as they navigate this very difficult time. And there, unfortunately, more people took this position than has been noted, and that's unfortunate. But the I know that it's taking place because I've seen it, right? I know that that people made these decisions because I participated. Um, and oftentimes these are the people that won't say, "Hey, I did this." They'll just be like, "What else can I do?" Right? And that in and of itself is a demonstration of character. And even though I don't know everybody, right? I don't know all the people that behaved in this manner. I want to thank everyone who did, and I want to take a look back because we are weeks away from December, weeks away from Christmas, and weeks away from the beginning of 2021. And so I want to set the tone with gratitude and with acknowledgement, because it's easy to focus on the things that are right in front of us or the things that are put right in front of us, right? So with that said, I wanted to be demonstrative about that, but I also wanted to set an example for focusing on the positive and remaining grateful for the different things that we have. And sometimes when we have a situation or we have an obligation or a commitment or a hardship or a challenge or something that demands our immediate attention, because it does, because the nature of the situation or the significance of the subject matter or whatever the case may be requires our immediate attention. Sometimes if we're not mindful, we can lose sight of those things that are right there next to us, that have always been next to us, if that's the case for you, that serve as positive reinforcement, that serve as our life, or sustenance or refuel or support, whatever that may be. And it could be a person, it could be in the form of an organization or a group or whatever that is. So take some time, if you will, to think about who and what has been there beside you this whole time, and not just specifically as we talk about the pandemic and social justice issues and the election, just in general. When you look back on your life and you look back on those times that were difficult or tenuous at times, who was there? Who was there as your support? Who was your go-to? What was your go-to? Right? If it was a hobby or an activity, if it was a group or an organization, if it was a person, right? What was it? Who were they? And take some time, and if you have the ability, and if it's applicable to demonstrate gratitude toward them or the organization or whatever, the hobby, think about ways to do that, right? So I'm going to give an example. If painting is a hobby of yours and that became your go-to and it gave you life and helped you keep going, maybe do a piece for your favorite charity or your favorite organization or someone that you know that it would change their life. Like, speaking about celebrating and acknowledging gratitude and the positive things that people have done and use their energy toward uplifting people and supporting people during this difficult time, we have to be and can be just as creative in our demonstrations of gratitude. And so if there's someone or something that has given you life or gotten you through that rough time, demonstrate demonstrate that gratitude toward that organization or that person or that group. But think about it so that it's authentic. That's the key. That it's authentic and it means something, and that the receiver understands that this came from your heart, whatever that means for you. So that was my pitch for today. So let's get into our topic. Again, our topic today here on Thursday, November 12th, 2020 is time management, money management, relationships, what all three have in common. And so we're just going to get right into it. When you think about time management, a lot of times the first thing that pops in our mind is work. How do I get all of my responsibilities and tasks and duties done at work within a specific time frame or a specific set of hours, or if it's, if you have a time system, whether it's quarterly or monthly, whatever, how do I get all of that done? And not just, okay, I did it and check it off, but how do I, ideally, there are people, let me be clear. There are people that say, okay, I did that, and they check the box off. And the completion is the check in the box, not necessarily efficiency and managing time while managing your duties and responsibilities. So a lot of times, I just want to put that point of clarification out there. But anyway, a lot of times when we think of time management, we think of completing our tasks as assigned, usually at work, but work and or school, home, whatever our obligations are or our commitments, if we have positions or responsibilities, tasks, duties in the community, whatever they are. Time management generally is, when I talk to people, is get it all done within a reasonable time frame or the time frame allotted. But when we think about time management, are we thinking about some of these other things that play into that? Are we thinking about investments when we look at our time? Do we see time as our commodity? Do we see time as a gift? Do we see time as an investment? Are we aware? Because you're going to keep hearing awareness and accountability from me. You're going to keep hearing responsibility and accountability. You're going to hear those things a lot. So with that said, are we aware of how we use our time? Are we aware of, are we overextending? Have I, one time I explained it to some students where I was teaching a college success course. And I said, well, what if you were given $24 and you had all these things that you needed to do that just needed to get done? So you have $24 and you have a list of things that you need to purchase. Look at the list and look at the $24. Are you going to be able to get all of that with $24 in one shot? How does that work? Or do you need to break up the $24? Because you get $24 a day. You have to use it in that day. There's no carryovers. And so what I was trying to get my students to see was that while you have $24 to use or lose every day, your list is the thing that's more stagnant than your money. And I was trying to get them there without, showing my hand or throwing the game. And finally someone said, wait a minute, what about the stuff on the list? What about it? Well, if I have 16 things on the list, but one is $10 and one is $4, I'm not going to be okay. So now what do you have to do? Well, if the list stays the same, then I can buy something each day. Oh, okay. And then you can think differently about what you want to get. If that $10 item is available at, I don't know, $19, but the $19 version is better. Better quality, lasts longer, then you can pick which day to see where I'm going with that. So that was my point. The awareness piece. How am I assigning and relegating my time? Is it practical? Am I able to do that? Do the logistics work in the sense that I'm able to get everything done and then some, right? We'll use a $24 analogy for an example. I may have a list and I may say, okay, today's $24 is going to be utilized for these things. And this is how that's going to work. And then we get there, I've metered it out, I've counted, I've factored in my tax so that I don't go over $24. And then I get there and what? There's a buy one, get one. Or there are coupons at the door. So how I had my items metered, when I look at my list, my rubric for what I was going to spend on what, now some of the costs for some of the items have gone down. That awareness. How am I able to navigate that? Am I aware of the coupons? Am I aware of the BOLOs? Sometimes I don't know till I get to the store. But that means that I have to do due diligence and look and see what's available, what's out there. Is this store having a discount on the items that I've determined to purchase today, or should I go to a different store? Right? Awareness. I'm not going to know these things if I'm not doing my due diligence, and I'm not going to be able to prioritize where I go shopping with that $24, what I get and what I put on the list for this set of $24 if I'm not doing my due diligence. And if it's not important to me, I might not do due diligence. It may end up being a situation where I'll just get what I can get and I'll make it work, right? That type of mentality, and I'm going to use myself as an example. Usually when I find myself thinking like that, I'm tired. And I'm reaching my saturation point for whatever it may be, and that's when my spending and my time management gets kind of the ebb and flow kind of gets jagged. And when it's jagged or when it's approaching that jagged spot is when I'm in the most risk of overextending myself. When I'm putting myself in a position that would lead toward burnout. Let me use cancer as an example. A lot of times, if I asked you right now, what are some cancer-causing habits or lifestyles or things that you can? What are some cancer-causing foods and hobbies and habits? You could name a whole bunch of them, right? But the thing about cancer is, we look at, do we have anybody in our family that has cancer? So that's that predisposed piece, meaning if I have someone specifically, mom or dad, but also parents, or also grandparents and uncles and aunts. If I have someone in my direct line that has cancer, I'm predisposed, meaning I have an environment. It's assumed, and rightly so, that I have an environment, a biological environment that could lend itself easily, if confronted with cancer-friendly behaviors, cancer-friendly lifestyles, cancer-friendly diets. Doesn't mean that I'll get cancer, because we know that there's no absolutes, right? We know people that have lived cancer-friendly lives. Habits. I combined habit and hobbies. Wow. I'm glad my daughter's not here because she would have a whole discussion on that. But anyway, cancer-friendly habits, cancer-friendly lifestyle, cancer-friendly diet, and didn't get cancer. So we know that part. But my point is this: if I recognize that kind of thinking is the beginning toward burnout, then that's when I need to backpedal. On Tuesday, we talked about self-care and having different things throughout the day that we will do to help regenerate, to help refuel, to help just give ourselves some grounding and some center. You're still in the game, even though you may be feeling whatever. And sometimes we have good days. We have good days. Don't neglect the self-care just because you feel good. Your body still needs that. Your mind, your spirit, your emotions still need that. And that consistency is how we keep commitments to ourselves. When we keep commitments to ourselves, we can take ourselves more seriously, and so can others. That's the trust relationship that's created between ourselves as parents and our children that goes unsaid. When mom or dad are going to do something and they do it, that's that safety trust component. It works the same when I'm working with myself. It works the same when I'm making commitments and decisions to and with myself. It works the exact same. So my point is the awareness piece. Am I aware of how I'm utilizing my time? Am I able to see where I tend to get kind of slippery, where I tend to bend and kind of, I don't know how to say it. How are there aspects of my time, or are there areas where I don't maintain as strong a boundary as I could or should, right? Example. And it's a perfect example as it relates to me being transparent. There are very clear things that I have to do. I have to go to work. I have to see my clients. I have to. But then if a child or a youth that I know says, "Hey, can you blah 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 for me, or can you help me with this?" I'm mostly inclined to automatically say yes, and that yes is generally based upon my value system. I feel like if an adolescent or a young adult asks me for something like information, assistance, whatever, I'm going to say yes because there's a reason why they asked me. And I'm going to do my best to be that support because it's crucial that I provide that support as an adult in this community. But it was crucial for me as a young adult. And I had very few, I didn't have a big community of people that did that, but I had people that did, right? I had a support system. And so a lot of times they supported me when it was inconvenient to do so. That being said, how can I do that and still maintain my time management? That's where the cushion comes in. That's when if something takes me 30 minutes to do, I'll allot 45 minutes, that 15-minute cushion. That in that 15 minutes, if something goes left, right, and it goes a little bit past 30 minutes, I'm still okay. Additionally, that 15 minutes, if I don't have to use it, I can use that, invest that, see the investment, in the next item of business and get ahead in another way, right? These time management skills and things that we're discussing go right into study habits, budgeting. See how these things are getting connected. And so if I do that, if I'm mindful and I build that cushion, then usually I'm okay. But if something happens, right? If we have a situation where the nature of the circumstances extend beyond 30, extend beyond 45 because of the thing, then I have to be mindful of, okay, then the next item I need to postpone. I need to cancel. I need to reach out now so that there's a professional distance between the start time and when I let you know that that's not going to happen. So that's not the norm. So that when people say, "Oh, well, she can't," okay, she never does that, this must be important. All speaks to boundaries. All speaks to commitment. All speaks to accountability. But it begins again with awareness. So what are the things that would lead me toward burnout? What are the things that lead me to overextend myself? Well, and Zinga, you know that if one of your former students says, "Hey, and you can do it," you're going to do it. Now I'm in a spot where let me check. And even if I don't, if I know my schedule, if I'm away from my schedule and I kind of know the things that I have planned, I need to make sure this is Nzinga taking care of Nzinga and making sure that Nzinga does what she needs to do. Because I may have gotten an appointment request, put that in my book, but I have certain appointments on certain days. So what's going to come to my mind and almost immediately is that well, I have this and this and this and this today because I have it every day or every Monday or whatever. But let me check, because that gives me the opportunity to look and not overextend myself, not double book myself. And a lot of times these schedules are on my phone, but I always check my phone with my paper planner, because sometimes, there's no overlap where there should be, and that's on me. But that's the cushion. The cushion is, let me check. And if I can't, I will do my best to have somebody help me with that. I check my calendar. I'm available. Yep, I can do it. Give me 5 minutes. Give me 10 minutes. If I'm driving, let me get home, whatever the case may be, so that I can give you that information and make sure that the next client or the next commitment is not impacted negatively because I've overextended myself, or I've taken on something in this little narrow window without giving thought to maybe the traffic's going to be bad. Maybe the person's not going to be readily available, right? So that's the cushion. That's a great segue into money management. My responsibility with money is obviously to pay my bills, obviously to make sure that the things that I need to sustain my family and to sustain my health and my residence, etc., that are contingent upon money, I need to make sure that I make the proper connections so that that stays in place. Have I found myself in situations where, oh no, I don't have enough? Yes. When that happens, and I have to take a good hard look at my stewardship. What happened? How did that come to pass? What were the events? What are the factors that played into me being in this situation where I don't know how I'm going to make this work? Did I pay too much on something? Did I not save where I should have saved? Did I miss a bill and I got to pay this and this, right? Because some of us have some bills that are automatically taken out of our accounts, and some of us like to pay certain bills. Just here's the money, right? It just depends. So look at that. How are you paying your bills? What are your bills? How are you keeping track of those bills? Do you have savings? Are you able to have savings? What's going on right now? And what are the biggies? Let's just start there. The biggies are usually mortgage, rent, car payment, car insurance, and then we just keep going. Healthcare, if it's not taken out of if it's not provided by your employer, and then your utilities, food, maintenance, blah, 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 blah. There's so many different things that I didn't list, but those are the ones when I say, what are your bills? Rent, okay. So boom. What's coming in and what's going out? And what's the difference? If there's no difference, meaning you are responsible for more that's coming in, then now we have decisions to make. Do we need another job? Do we need another source of income? How do we need to whittle down something? Do we need to get, downsize our something in our expenditures? Do we need to downsize our car? Do we need to, this is how that works. Because if the end game, if the goal is not to be in debt or to remain in debt, or to get to a place where now things are being taken back by those that are on the lien or the title, how do we get to that place? And if the goal is to not be there or not return there, what are we doing so that we're not going there? But time management, money management, relationships, what all three have in common are the same. Just now when I was talking about time management, I talked about that time cushion, money cushions. If you build in a cushion into your budget, whether that's your checking account, whether you build a cushion in your checking account, whether you have a savings account. Some people have accounts in banks where they don't have a debit card, so that they have to physically go to the bank. If they know that they have, the inclination to spend, that's the awareness piece. I know that if I take my whole person into DSW, I have to have a certain amount of cash in my hand, no debit cards. I'm better now, but for a while, that's how I did it. And not the debit card in the car, it was at home. Because that used to be, my thing. So inside that awareness, I had to build in ways to keep myself safe ways for me to keep the commitment that I had made to myself regarding DSW. And so I had to come up with ways to make sure that I could do that. And at one point, it included my wallet had my driver's license, the amount of money I was not willing to spend beyond, and that money that I was not willing to spend beyond included tax. And that meant that bank cards and credit cards and all cards were here. Because my end goal meant that much to me. My end goal was what I was focused on was my discipline, my commitment was to maintain and secure that goal. So the things that went around that helped me secure that. It didn't have to make sense to anybody else. I didn't even tell anybody that's what I was doing. After a while, it was kind of comical, so it was a joke. People didn't know I was playing, but I was serious. I was like, listen, I can't take all my money in there. I have to make sure this, because, and it's not like I value shoes over rent, or I value shoes over car payment. No. And Zynga would see, that's a good deal on those shoes. I need these shoes because I would need a pair of shoes. That's how it ended up. It would usually begin. I need some type of shoe. I love DSW because I love the variety. And, I used to do well with the cost. And then I had this like rewards card. So, there was that. There's the incentive. And then I would see something else. And I would see something else that I liked. And I could match that with this. It gives me some versatility in my wardrobe, and it's at a good price for that shoe, but not within my budget. And that's how it was the rabbit hole. So I had to build in things that made sense, that I would do, and that kept me on the road toward my goal. Money management. How do I get to this place where I'm not still trying to climb out of this hole? Did I overextend myself? Did I start a new business at a time that it was difficult? Did I make an amazing purchase that I really needed, but it put me in a spot? That's life. That's life. There will be times when we make a decision and it will seem like the best decision at that time. I mean, we spend some time and think about it. And then something happens that's outside of our control. What do? We can bemoan the situation. We can allow ourselves to sink into despair. And then the situation just keeps spiraling out of control. Or we can feel what we feel. We can be disappointed. We can be frustrated. We can be angry. Experience that. And then begin to implement the lesson that you learned. Begin your recovery process. Because what I'm saying is, there are commonalities across these three, and actually more. I mean, I mentioned study skills or study habits. Time management, money management, and relationships there's some things that they have in common that we're going to discuss that I'm going to continue to illuminate. But the thing is, at the bottom line of all three is boundaries. At the bottom line of all three is awareness. And they have this yin-yang relationship. I have these boundaries to keep me safe from where I've been before, or where I don't ever want to go. Well, I saw this and I don't ever want to have to live like that on my own, right? I've seen things in my family. I've seen things in my neighborhood. My friends have told me things. I don't ever want to have that experience. What can I do so that I put myself in the best position as far as the things that are within my control to not have those experiences? Those are the boundaries. But the awareness piece is the cushion. So if the guardrail is the barrier, that line and the grass in between the guardrail and the line, now we're talking about that cushion. Now we're talking about that awareness. And if some of you may have some of the same safety issues, safety features on your car that mine does. Beep, 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 when I get close to the line, I then become aware that I'm close to the line, because something has caused me to not be aware that I'm close to the line. And now this feature, right, this cushion, this beep, 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 alert, alarm, whatever it is, that brings my awareness to my position goes off. And now I have the ability, remember, on Tuesday I talked about my alarm that goes off for it's 11:55. That's exactly what it says with the music playing, and then at 12 it goes off again, just the alarm. So the things that I put in place to keep my awareness, if my awareness should vary, why? Because I can't concentrate? No, because I'm human, because I'm doing many things, because I'm working, and a lot of times I stop the alarm before it starts, or I'm looking at the phone, I'm waiting for it to go off, and I keep going because I'm aware of it. But sometimes I'm like, oh my goodness, is it 11:55 already? Because I've gotten into, right? So without judgment and with compassion, look at how I spend my time and how I divvy out my time, how I spend my money and how I divvy out my money. And where are those weak spots? I just told you one of mine. DSW was one. And understand when I say DSW, I'm speaking specifically about DSW, but the overarching issue when I'm mentioning DSW is shoes. What are the things in your spending habits that you find yourself? And that's where the awareness comes in when we begin to track it. If I'm not watching what I'm spending, whether it's a card or money. And I'm going to tell you something that I did. I started using cash again. I began to use one card that's preloaded for gas and stuff like that. And then I would pay bills with cash. I have some bills that come directly out of my account. And then this everyday kind of routine spending, I started using cash again. And here's why. I remember I told you I'm very kinesthetic, very tactile. When that money is in my hand and I look at my wallet and there's no more money, or I see it going down, that I'm kinesthetic and visual. That's when things connect. So whatever that is for you, sometimes for me, again, transparency, and I'm using myself as an example, sometimes I had to make my habits inconvenient so that I would maintain the focus and the awareness I needed to reach my goal. My goal is more important. The commitment to my goal is more important than my convenience right now. Nobody likes to be inconvenienced. It's so easy. It's so convenient to have to whip the card out, hand the card, or stick the card in and keep it moving. I don't have to count coins. I don't have to 5 and a 10 and a 1, and I don't have to do all that. I don't even have to do remedial math. And then there's my math muscle getting weak, but that's another story for another time. It's convenient, right? It's convenient to go to the ATM. It's convenient to pay with a card. It's convenient. I don't pay for my gas at the pump. I stopped doing that a long time ago when one of my best friends had her account hacked twice. I was like, yeah, I'm not doing that. So I go in, wind, rain, I walk into the gas thing. Can I get X on X? And I walk out. That's not convenient. It's a way of life. Now I've been doing for almost 7 years. I haven't paid at a pump in 7 years. My point is, if I live a life to maintain convenience, there's not going to be a lot of balanced principles fueling what I do. And I'm talking about me. So I knew if I'm seeing and touching, I'm going to remember. I'm going to remain aware. That probably won't, I probably won't continue to live my life. It depends. It depends on what happens with the economy and many other things. But my point is, once I learn a lesson, I'm usually pretty good. So I'm not saying that I'm going to pay the majority of the things that I buy with cash, but that's where I am right now. Because I need to be cognizant of what's happening. And that's how it works for me. And it's inconvenient. Understand it's inconvenient. I'm the one at the line now taking much longer. It doesn't take that long, but I'm making sure, okay, how much more do I? And I have a little thing in my wallet. Yep. Mm-hmm. And keep this in mind. Not only do I do it like that, but I don't carry a lot of money on me, which means Nzinga has to come to her domicile, figure out what she's going to do for today, what requires money, so that if you take my wallet, what you gonna do? I don't carry all my cards. Like now I'm getting into some other stuff, but that awareness, how am I spending? Where are the spots in my spending habits where they kind of go wonky? How does that work? I have to be mindful. How am I tracking it? Right? And it's easier for me to track when I'm paying in cash. Oh, okay, so there's that, right? Think about it like this. A friend of mine said, I get a coffee every morning on the way to work. I'm spending X amount of dollars a week on coffee. She had it to spend. It wasn't having a negative impact on her finances because of the type of job, the way she had lived her life financially. She was good. So if she wanted to spend whatever money she spent every day on to stop and have coffee, it wouldn't have negatively impacted her finances. But she was like, she looked and she was like, what in the world? I spent X amount of dollars on coffee. She went right and got a Keurig. Because in her mind, she was like, if I want coffee, I'll get coffee. But it was too routine for her. It was too rote for her. And she didn't like that. She didn't like that. So she decided to do something else with that. There are people who say, I used to spend money on coffee every day, and I'm going to, whatever I spent on that coffee, I'm going to take that and send it over here. And that becomes their fund for whatever, that like begins their vacation fund. There are many different ways to begin creating these habits that kind of create cushions. Be creative and then talk to people. Like there's a lot of hacks out there that, I shouldn't have said hack in relationship to money, but there are a lot of different things on social media, a lot of different things when we do our due diligence and do some research, either on the internet or financial locations and where people sell financial products, where you can do relatively simple, make simple, easy changes to your spending that end up creating these cushions. And so I want to, again, bring it to awareness. But let's talk about relationships. When we look at relationships, is that a personal investment? Whatever the relationship may be, familial, friend, romantic, marriage, how does it work? What are the parameters, i.e. boundaries, to that relationship or those relationships? Because I understand that the boundaries for my friendship is going to be very different than the boundaries in my intimate relationship as it relates to my spouse or my partner. It's going to be different than my relationship with my coworkers and my supervisors. It's going to be different than my relationship with my mom or my dad or my children, right? So understanding the different types and different dynamics in our relationships, but what does that mean as far as an investment? I'm investing time, I'm investing emotion, I'm investing resources. It may be that, I'm investing in you because you're in a situation and you need to eat, and you get up, the time that you leave, the time that you come back, you're just exhausted. I don't mind if you live next door or whatever, we have this arrangement. Boom, how can I support you? That's fine. But what does that cost me? What kind of investment is that for me? What is that? And how does that work? Like, how does that even work? When we're talking about these relationships, is it a give and take? Is it a give? Is it a take? What is it that you need and what is it that you want in a relationship? What are your relationship goals? What are your family relationship goals? What are your parenting, you're the parent-child relationship goals? What are your boss and coworker? And it doesn't mean you sit down, hello, so-and-so, I know that we work next to each other, but here are my goals for our relationship. No, that's not what I'm saying. But when we're talking about awareness, when we're talking about boundaries, when we're talking about having a system for time management that keeps us in a place where our priorities are set and we're reaching our goals efficiently, and we're making sure that our responsibilities and commitments are taken care of within the time allotted, if not less than, to put us in that best position, right? Same thing with money. What are our habits and what are our processes and how do we steward our money so that we're not in debt any longer, or we're steadily coming out of debt? And now we're ahead of the game. Now we have some savings. Now we own things outright. And so we don't have these things hanging over our heads. What are the steps that we put in place? What are those financial habits and those those money products and financial products that we've either secured or created, have we created additional lines of income? What are we doing toward that goal? If that goal is to own as much of the things that you're leasing or renting now, if it's that you come out of debt, if it's that you're financially independent, that you have this sustenance to where you can create a legacy, a financial legacy, not just the money there for your children or the legacy in the sense of land and property, but also the go-to manual, or the how-to manual, so that your children and your children's children can have a blueprint of how to stay out of debt. Because if I'm at the point in my legacy where I'm coming out of that debt, I need to make sure my kids know how I'm doing this, so they know not to come here, so that when I'm out of the debt, they start from out of debt and stay from debt, right? I said that sentence incorrectly on purpose, so that they stay from debt. But that requires awareness. That requires planning. That requires me looking at stuff that's hard to look at, because that's how I was. I don't want to see the debit. I don't want to see the balance. I don't want to see it. I know it's bad. I should know. Especially now where we have just about everything that's digital, and we can access things via the paperless highway, right? But again, I'm trying to build on that so that you understand how these things intersect and connect: time management, money management, and now into the relationships. What is the investment? Is it energy, money, time, emotion? What is it? Is it physical? Is it mental? Is it spiritual? What is the investment in our relationships, in our respective relationships? What are the things that we want and need from these different relationships, and how? How do we meter? How are we able to be cognizant of the difference between need and want? And when need and want, especially as it relates to relationships, overlap, because it does happen. So when we're talking about this awareness and these needs, how do you remain yourself inside relationships? Because, and this just popped in my mind, it wasn't part of the script, because in some relationships where the two become one, it does not mean that the two are no longer themselves. It means that the two create something new. And the new thing that's created cannot logically, cannot spiritually, cannot emotionally, cannot mentally, and cannot physically remain one without the two maintaining fidelity to the two pieces independent of each other. When we cook, right, the ingredients don't cease to be the ingredients. When I put sugar in something, or I put salt in something, I put a vegetable in something, it contributes to the recipe. It contributes to the dish that's being created, right? But it does not cease being what it is. If it did, that would change the whole, it would change the whole dynamics of the situation. It would change the consistency and the taste of the dish being created. The two have to remain the two. When they become one, they create something different. And that there's that yin and yang, depending upon the nature of the relationship. But I wanted to say that because I lose myself in a relationship. Why is that? Because if you're lost in the relationship, then who's doing your part? We cannot be lost and arrive someplace. We can't. We can't. And I know you're thinking, yeah, I was walking down the street and I got lost and I arrived at this place. Yes, you did. Yes, you did. But bear with me for a minute. You and I combined to become one cannot arrive at a place without my participation. If my participation is that I just follow you, then it's not one. It's one and another one. When we don't have this collaboration, because remember, the two don't become one so that one is in control. The two become one thing, one unit together. There's a difference between walking beside, walking in front of, and walking behind. And understanding as it relates to marriage, I got off topic again, but let me just finish this. As it relates to marriage, there may be times when one will go ahead of maybe you have agreed in your relationship, in your marriage, that this is the thing that I've agreed, we've collectively agreed that you'll handle this, I'll handle this, but we do it together. So you may take the lead on some things, I may take the lead on some things. But in doing so, we still remain one because we're still connected. We have still maintained the commitment that this is how we're going to do things. When that collaboration ceases, then you have this kind of morph thing. So in my relationships, where is the position? Where's the space for me to still be in Zynga? And what does that mean to me? What does that mean to you? And how does that play out? Because there will be times when Nzinga needs to stand down. And there'll be times where we don't leave the table until we're done collaborating. And there'll be times when we don't agree. But we have to have these things in place on how to handle that when that happens. Because guess what? The last time I checked, Nzinga's human, and so are you, hopefully. But if we're not mindful of this, if we're not teaching our children this stuff about relationships, yeah, there's that piece of giving of yourself, and there's that piece of not being selfish and allowing, yes, within reason. But where is the line? When does it become a situation where now we're approaching deal breakers? And do we know what our deal breakers are? A lot of times, knowing what our deal breakers are, or arriving at a place where we know, arriving at a list of deal breakers, a lot of times comes from having experienced something, whether it's a trauma, whether it's an unpleasant thing. Well, now I know I don't like that. That's never going to happen again. I'm never going to allow myself to be in that situation again, as much as within my power. So when I first see the red flag, I'm going to back up and keep watching, as opposed to excusing it and, yeah, well, I can see that. Because maybe it is. Maybe it's just a one-time thing, and maybe it's not. But keep your eyes about you. But that's something we have to teach our young people, we have to teach our children, right? And keep in mind, and this is one of the hardest lessons to remember, and that is this. The majority of what we're teaching our kids, the majority of what we're teaching the people that we have, over which we have some sort of sphere of influence, the majority of that teaching method is them watching us. Being mindful of the relationships that I allow my children to be around, that I bring into our family nucleus, is my responsibility. And I take the onus for that. My best friends, my children know them. And they know them well. Their best friends, I know them. And I know them well. They need to see what healthy relationships look like. They need to see, this is another piece that's not on the script, but I need to say this for whatever reason, because it came up. They need to see that until they are okay, and I'm using okay loosely, I want to say great, but okay, being in their own company, they needn't be in anyone else's. Too often we shape our identity, we shape who we are, and our self becomes this pliable thing outside of the area of personal evolution. My self is pliable to me. You don't get to reshape me. None of y'all. That's me. Now, you may say things to me, you may bring things to my awareness, and then I begin the reshaping and adjusting or whatever. But so often, our self becomes this pliable thing based upon my relationship, based upon my friends, based upon where I work. Ooh, you're changing. If I don't have a sense of self, I'm not even going to see that. If I don't have people in my life that are that I know have my best interest in mind, and if you don't know me, let me explain something to you. My friends are my friends deliberately. Deliberately. Meaning, I know that I can count on them because I've seen. I have artifacts. I know I can count on them because they've been there. Those people they're keepers, right? And it doesn't mean that because I've had friendships, we've broken up, we've had these issues, and we've made up. I have circles. I have a type 5. That's what I call them, type 5. And they are right in this little nucleus. And they're the ones, and if you don't have this tight-knit group of people, you need to get at least 1 or 2, 3 friends that are like this. That if they tell you something about something that you love or are really committed to, and it's something that you don't want to hear, that's hard to hear, but you'll believe them or at least take what they're saying into consideration because of who they are, they have to earn that. They have to earn that. And there's a reason why I'm saying this. I was in a relationship one time, and people close to me said they made the decision to tell me something that was hard to say because they cared about me. The commitment, that end goal, that bottom line was our relationship and my well-being. And they knew if I say this, the potential is I may lose my friend. I'm not going to walk away from someone who is going to share something with me for my best interest, whether I agree with them or not, whether they're right or wrong or not, if that's where they're coming from. But the bottom line is they had to have thought, and they told me they did. I knew that if you got mad enough, if you could decide that you didn't want to be my friend, that's a possibility. And they said it anyway. That's character. That's integrity. That's the kind of friend I want to keep. And so I had friends that said, something is not right. Something is not right. And because I knew who they were, because of who they were to me, I stepped back and I was like, okay, am I able to make these same connections? Let me think about what they're saying. Is there any validity to this? They were spot on. Spot on. And I had decisions I had to make. So the critical thinking didn't stop because I was listening to the members of my type 5. No, I've reached my own conclusions. And it was hard for me to accept that I allowed myself to be in a very dysfunctional relationship, but I'm human. And the timing of how the relationship came to pass was just it lended itself too easily for me to be in that situation. But the bottom line is we can all find ourselves in situations where we look back like, what in the world, how did I get there? But that's why we have these cushions. In my life, my type 5 are not just cushions and me, their cushion, but they give me life. They're part of my self-care. Because these are people that genuinely care about me, even if it costs them our friendship. Those are the kind of people I have in my life. So what is this piece about myself? Like, who really knows you? Who are the people that know you, that you trust with them knowing you? There's that other piece. But as it relates to this relationship piece, me having a sound sense of who I am, good, bad, and ugly, when I know who I am, when I value who I am, you'll be able to see that in the company that I keep. Not just the people I sit next to on the bus, because that's different, but the company that I keep. When I keep company, I'm investing time. And y'all, those of you who know me know that I am good at home with my book, with my paints, writing, reading, watching TV, catching up on a movie, catching a nap, because I don't ever hardly get to take a nap. So when I decide to do something with you, that's a deliberate decision and that's an investment. And I don't say it like that when someone asks me if I want to do something with them. I don't say it like that, but that's the process that goes through my head. Do I have time for this? Is it going to jam up my schedule? Time management. Do I have the finances? Is that going to cost me? Is that going to put me to bed? Okay. What's the spiritual, physical, mental, and emotional investment? Am I willing to do that? What is this going to cost me? What can I give to you? And at the end of it, causing no harm, remaining kind and compassionate. But am I in a space, because I'm an introvert, am I in a space to be able to go out and do something? Does that mean I don't like you? Does that mean I don't want to spend time with you? No, it just means that I'm taking myself seriously, and myself is the priority first. Because there are other selves that are dependent upon me taking care of mine. When I take myself seriously, I'm going to take my health seriously. I'm going to take my mental health seriously. I'm going to take my body seriously. I'm going to take my spirit seriously. I'm going to take my emotions seriously. How we interact with money management, Time management and our relationships reveal a great deal about how we see and value ourselves. That's how they're related. The boundaries. When we say no and why, that explains a lot about my time. No, I'm not willing, or I don't have the time for that. No, I'm not willing or have the money for that. I'm not willing to spend it on that. No, because something about it's not relevant for our relationship, or that's not where we are. And deal breakers. What are the deal breakers in your time management? What are the deal breakers in your money management? What are the deal breakers in your relationships? And if you don't know what they are, start there. What are the things that you are not going to accept or allow to remain? Right? What are those? The things that you must never do or you must do? What are the things that if you have a set amount that you're going to always have, that you decided you're always going to have in your bank account, what's the thing that will cause you to break that commitment and go below that? Is it an emergency? Oh, well, yeah, I only had that amount, so now I know I need to create an emergency fund that I don't ever touch unless, and it's separate from my vacation fund, separate from checking and savings. It's an emergency fund, right? Whatever that looks like. What are your deal breakers? And what principle are you willing to stand on, regardless of how you feel? That's where that example of my friends with that one relationship that I was in, I had to step back and say, this thing that they're saying, what? I don't see that. Can I see that? Let me step back, bring my face out of the forest and check out the trees a little bit. And maybe they're right, maybe they're wrong. That's my decision to make, right? But that awareness, we have to remember at the point of awareness comes the point of responsibility. How we purchase and save habits become lifestyle, and debt, unfortunately, is the lifestyle of many. Why? This instant gratification piece. If I spend a little time here, then good. If I spend a little money here, because I want that thing now, instead of saving for it, instead of budgeting for it, how is that going to play out in the grand scheme of me reaching my goals? Instant gratification inside relationships, and to speak clearly and frankly, that instant gratification, whether it's emotions, physical, spiritual, or mental, it plays a role. I want what I want. What if what I want is not what I need? Especially as we talk about relationships. What if I want this relationship and it's not at all what I need? Am I going to be able to stand on principle and make my emotions subordinate to that? That's the mature critical thinking that we need to continue to develop and cultivate within our children. When we know our worth and we know our value and who we are, our associations and our relationships will reflect that. The types of jobs, if we know what we are capable of professionally and we take that seriously, it'll be reflected there. And it'll end up being a situation where you'll understand this job pays the bills and it pays well, but it does not resonate with my spirit. It does not reflect accurately who I am as far as my integrity and my ethics. I can go work down the street for less and have my conscience be clear. Not everybody can do that. Scratch that. Everybody can have that type of mindset if they choose to, but it's not very common. Time management, money management, and relationships. The things that we have in common are the boundaries and the awareness and how we reach those goals and how we decide to invest, how we decide to prioritize, and how we decide to implement these barriers and these cushions so that we stay in a place where we're healthy and as balanced as we can be. Understanding that there are going to be things that ebb and flow that come that we may not be prepared initially, like anticipating, right? So what are the things as we think about time management? What are the things that keep us healthy and reduce our stress and keep us from as far removed from burnout as possible? Money management. Are we proactive and practical in our money management so that we are able to address this debt situation and we're working towards self-sufficiency in our relationships? Do we have healthy filters? Are we able to see when things are going left, right, or sideways, right? And are they fulfilling? Are we giving and taking? Is there this rhythm where you feel just as fulfilled as they feel fulfilled by your participation in their life, whatever the type of relationship that it is? because some of us take our relationships seriously, very seriously, and all of them, right? Which means we are very cognizant and deliberate with how we interact inside of our relationships, how we prioritize those relationships, and what those relationships mean to us in the grand scheme. We have reached an hour, so I'm wrapping it up now. I want to remind you that Tuesday, November 17th, and Thursday, November 19th, we'll be right back here for our Making Engaging Community Connections Accessible live. Next week, Tuesday and Thursday have the same theme: when safe places aren't safe. On Tuesday, when safe places aren't safe, we will look at microaggressions at church. That went left, didn't it? And then on Thursday, when safe places aren't safe, organization mission statement, bylaws, and behaviors. So those will be the topics for next week. The theme will be when safe places aren't safe. Again, have a great weekend. Be kind to yourself that you may be kind to others. And as always, speak life. See you soon.